On a cold October evening, Emma Winters drove her car through the dense forest. She had taken a wrong turn after visiting her parents, and her GPS had lost its signal miles back. The trees closed in on either side, their branches resembling twisted fingers reaching for the sky. The road was narrow, and the fog thickened with every passing minute. As Emma's headlights pierced through the mist, she noticed a dim, flickering light up ahead. It seemed to come from an old, dilapidated house that stood eerily isolated in the woods. She hesitated, but, with the fuel gauge nearing empty and no signal on her phone, she decided to pull over and ask for directions. The house was ancient, its wooden planks warped and covered in moss. The windows were dark, save for a faint light spilling from a single room upstairs. Something about the place felt wrong, but Emma steeled herself, telling herself it was just an old house. She knocked on the door, the sound echoing unnaturally in the silent night. For a long moment, there was no answer. Emma turned to leave, but just as she stepped off the porch, the door creaked open. A frail-looking woman stood in the doorway. Her face was gaunt, her eyes sunken deep into their sockets, and her clothes looked like they hadn't been changed in decades. "Can I help you?" the woman asked, her voice raspy and barely above a whisper. Emma forced a smile. "I'm sorry to bother you. I got lost, and I'm low on gas. Could you tell me the way to the nearest town?" The woman's eyes seemed to glisten with an odd intensity. She motioned Emma inside. "Come in. You'll be safe here." Despite the woman's unsettling appearance, the cold night and Emma's growing anxiety made her follow the invitation. The moment she stepped inside, the air turned heavy, as if the house itself was holding its breath. The door slammed shut behind her with a loud bang, causing Emma to jump. Inside, the house was dimly lit by oil lamps that cast strange shadows on the walls. The furnishings were old, covered in dust and cobwebs. The air smelled stale, like something forgotten. Emma noticed an old portrait on the wall, a family of three, the old woman when she was younger, a man, and a little girl. "That's my family," the woman said, noticing Emma's gaze. "They're gone now." "I'm sorry," Emma replied awkwardly, feeling the tension rise. "I just need directions." "Stay a while," the woman urged, stepping closer. "There's something I need to show you." Emma's instincts screamed at her to leave, but her feet stayed rooted to the spot. The woman led her up a narrow, creaky staircase to the room where the light had been. Inside, the room was cluttered with old toys, a small bed, and faded wallpaper. It was clearly a child's room. "This was my daughter's room," the woman whispered. "She disappeared one night. Vanished into the woods." A chill ran down Emma's spine as she listened. Something about the room felt off, like it was stuck in time. She moved to the window and looked out into the forest. Through the fog, she thought she saw movement, something shifting between the trees. "We waited for her to come back," the woman continued, her voice growing more distant. "But she never did. And neither did the others." "Others?" Emma turned to face her, but the woman was gone. Panic surged through her. She bolted down the stairs and ran to the front door, but no matter how hard she pulled, it wouldn't budge. The house groaned as if it were alive, the walls seeming to close in on her. Suddenly, Emma heard a faint giggle, a child's laugh. She spun around, her heart pounding, and saw the shadow of a little girl at the top of the stairs. The figure stood still for a moment before darting out of sight. "Hello?" Emma called out, her voice shaky. The giggle came again, this time from a different corner of the house. She followed the sound, her pulse quickening, until she found herself back in the child's room. The door slammed shut behind her, and the giggle grew louder, turning into an eerie, mocking laughter. "Why are you here?" A small voice whispered from the darkness. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Who are you?" The shadows in the room began to twist and writhe. From the corner, a figure slowly emerged. It was the little girl from the portrait, pale, her eyes black as coal. Her dress stained with mud. "They never found me," the girl said, stepping closer. "But they will find you." Before Emma could react, the room grew impossibly cold. Shadows stretched from the corners, wrapping around her like tendrils. She screamed, trying to pull away, but the shadows tightened their grip, dragging her towards the window. Outside, the forest seemed to come alive. Dark figures stood between the trees, watching. Waiting, the last thing Emma saw before the darkness consumed her was the girl's face, twisted into a wicked grin. Days later, Emma's car was found abandoned on the side of the road. The house in the woods had burned down decades ago, but locals still whispered about it, a place where people went missing, where shadows whispered secrets, and where the lost were never found again. And on some nights, if you listen closely, you can still hear the faint, eerie laughter of a child echoing through the trees.